Heavyweight slugfest coming up this weekend. We have Josh Parisian out of Scorpion Fighting System taking on Guam's Roque Martinez, and we got really excited for Roque Martinez's debut in the UFC. I mean, it seemed like a long time coming type of thing. He had fought with Rizin for the longest time. And listen, there are some big names on his record. He got finished by Mirko Cro Cop back in 2018. He submitted Jerome LeBanner back in 2017. And if you go down through it, again, there are some big names there that you would recognize from the Pacific. But you look at this, a guy that trains still at a Spike 22 over in Guam, a guy that's loyal to his people, does great interviews with some of the television stations locally. And I really do like Roque Martinez's game. Josh Parisian coming in here out of Michigan, a guy that fought on Contender Series years ago, back in, and let's get into it, 2018, first round finish over Greg Rebello. It was the win over the CS champ. Then he didn't get a contract right away into the UFC. He fought Michel Batista, he got finished. Then he went and fought Lights Out Championship 2 in 2019 against big time contender, and I think this is a guy you're going to see in the UFC this year, Brett Martin. He just had a big win just, a week or two ago. So after that, if you're Josh Parisian, do you hang your head low? No. He wins. And then he ends up on Contender Series. He beats Chad Johnson, and then he punches his ticket into the UFC. Loses to Parker Porter in his debut.
Not a good look.
We compared this fight in our mind's eyes. We kind of came together, did the old Thundercats. This is like a fight that we saw a couple of weeks ago. This is just like Chris Barnett and Ben Rothwell.
It really is, because for Josh Parisian, I know he talks a lot about how, I move like a middleweight. Well, you know what? Heavyweight weighs 265 pounds and moves like a middleweight. One Ben Rothwell. And yeah, he might not do the weird Dominic Cruz thing anymore, but he still moves pretty well for a heavyweight. And when I think about Josh Parisian, he really is just a smaller version of Big Ben Rothwell, because Ben Rothwell does tip the scale almost as heavy as a heavyweight can get, whereas Josh Parisian does sit more around that 240 range. And no, Josh Parisian's is big, because in my mind's eye, that's the thing. Ben Rothwell is absolutely massive, but for Josh Parisian, they do have that very similar style where it's not often that a heavyweight prioritizes their footwork, but for Parisian, he really does, and you do like to see it, because at heavyweight, it feels like a lot of guys just rely on their one-punch knockout ability and the fact that, I can defend a few takedowns. And listen, Josh Parisian might not have looked that good against Parker Porter, but one thing that Josh Parisian is not is a heavyweight who goes in there just relying on his power. I think of him a little bit similarly to a guy like Tanner Boser, who, again, Boser's not going out there trying to put you out with one big punch. He will rely on his volume a little bit more. Now, Parisian, and he will tell you himself, does rely a lot more on some spinning techniques than some of those other guys mentioned, but he does remind you of both when it comes to the volume. For Roque Martinez, it's kind of weird because he's got this crazy kickboxing background. You know him for all the striking, but his last two performances, he has looked kind of underwhelming so far. And if you just take both guys from their last performances, you're not really having high expectations coming into this fight, but I do have high hopes that this could at least be a somewhat entertaining unranked heavyweight matchup.
You look at Roque Martinez, his debut was on incredibly short notice against Alexander Romanov, and Romanov.
It was a bad fight for Roque.
Roque Martinez wasn't able to do anything, but herein the opportunity. Then he took on Don'Tale Mayes, and he got outboxed, and he didn't really land much. And that was the thing. When you see a really good Roque Martinez fight, he's moving forward. He's throwing jump elbows up the middle. He's throwing jump knees. He's a really fun fighter to watch. When you look at his last number of fights and his losses, again, Jake Hune, the Honey Bear, I love him. I love to watch his fights. He had a kickboxing fight against Carlos Ulberg, if you want a deep cut.
Ooh.
Big Jake Hune guy. And then Cro Cop in 2018 with Rizin. Well, listen, Cro Cop's going to Cro Cop over there. But the wins, Ryo Sakai, who was 8-8, Seigo Mizuguchi, who was 14-7, and then Hideki Sakine. And Matt, listen, I love Hideki Sakine. Shrek, a guy that has a, sub 20-second loss to one championship's own Alen Ngalani. Is he ever going to fight Vitor Belfort? But Matt, when I look at this one, if it's a fun Roque Martinez, he's letting his hands go, he's getting wild, and he's giving one to take 5. That doesn't really work out for me very well against Josh Parisian, but this is very much a 2008 heavyweight fight.
Without a doubt, and that really is a great comparison, because both guys do have somewhat limited skill sets, and I don't mean that
They're fun.
They are fun fighters, don't get me wrong, but it's not like either guy's going to be winning the heavyweight title anytime soon, and it's just not the ceiling I see for them. I do, though, see Josh Parisian as the guy who does have the higher ceiling. I see him as being, A, the more well-rounded out of the two, but B, the faster guy, because you kind of mentioned it before we started. You were like, Roque Martinez has fast hand speed. And he did.
This could be the fight. You never know. I mean, backs up against the wall.
Very true. And I do think that Roque Martinez not worrying as much about the takedown threat in this fight will let him at least use his stand-up game and allow his stand-up to flow a little bit more. But my issue is that I don't think this version of Roque Martinez was the version that we saw outside the UFC. And to be completely honest, I don't ever think that guy was really a UFC caliber fighter to begin with. I know that's hard to say. It's just he never really had any big top-tier wins coming outside of the organization, moving his way in. I do see Josh Parisian as someone who can at least overwhelm heavyweights with his volume, and that's why I have Parisian to win this fight.
All right, Matt, we look at the odds for this one, and I was a little bit surprised due to the fact that they are very close. If you look at it for Josh Parisian, he opened a -135. The line get down to about a -165. He's a -130 right now. For Roque Martinez, open a +115. He's at about a +105. So they are close. If you head on over to Tapology, 743 total votes, 89% Parisian, 65% by knockout. For the 11% that have Martinez, 53% by knockout. I've already picked some underdogs on this undercard. But for me, I'm going to go with the slight favorite that is, for now, Josh Parisian. It is a tricky one. If you decide you want to roll the dice, you're a wild, wild person. But I'm going to go with Parisian here ever so slightly.
This is the definition of pop and popcorn fight, but no, I agree. I've got Parisian. Like I said, I do feel like, if anything, that Parker Porter fight lit a fire under him, and we will see a better version than we saw throughout his last outing. So I do think the volume of Josh Parisian will eventually win out throughout this
Matt, big-time fight at heavyweight, both of us going with Scorpion Fighting System's own Josh Parisian to get the win. Can't wait for the night. Seung Jung taking on Danny Ige in the main event. You're not going to want to miss that. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, and as we always say, let's get into it.